welcome to the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate, and this one is a special broadcast as we count down to the inaugural ceremony in the United States. Visuals coming to you on your screens right now. Joe Biden has now arrived at the venue itself. In about an hour from now, the president-elect will be taking oath to become the 46th president of the United States, making him the oldest president also to take office in his third attempt. Along with him, we will also see Kamala Harris, who will be sworn in as the first woman vice president and the first person of color as vice president in the United States. The inauguration ceremony has been scaled down due to the COVID pandemic and, of course, because of the security concerns. Who can forget the kind of violence we saw unfold in the U.S. Capitol Hill just a few days ago? Before this, outgoing President Donald Trump left from White House. He, by the way, will be breaking the long-standing tradition of attending the inauguration ceremony. He is not going to be there at all. And of course, after months of refusing to accept the election results, it was highly unlikely that he's going to actually take a look at a smooth transition where he even pays attention to these kind of courtesies and attends. But President Donald Trump, the outgoing president, is out of White House. He made a speech. He spoke about the kind of work his government did. He also said we will be back in some form. When you see the economy doing well and the nation doing well and the military doing well, don't forget us, because there is a large contribution that we made to that. Live visuals coming to you from Washington, D.C. So this is a special broadcast. For the next 60 minutes, we'll get you visuals. We tell you what's going on over there, who's in attention, the special guests who are there, and who will be taking oath at what point of time. We also have a special set of panelists joining us this evening to have a conversation about what we are looking at and what can be expected next. And of course, the path, the journey to this specific day, why this inauguration day is unlike any other perhaps that we've seen in United States history. So let's say good evening to Aarti Tikku Singh, Foreign and Strategic Affairs Editor with INS, Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, former Secretary for Ministry of External Affairs, Leela Ponnappa, former diplomat and Deputy National Security Advisor, Sanjay Kapoor, senior journalist, joins us this evening. Kevin Sullivan will be with us, in fact is with us, senior correspondent with the Washington Post. Kevin, good evening to you, good morning to you. A big day, a great day for people in the United States. What's the sentiment there in Washington?
This is a very strange and exciting day here in Washington. We've never seen anything quite like this. You know, the city is locked down. There are National Guard troops in the streets. There won't be any people at the inauguration, very few, only invited dignitaries. There won't be people on the mall, as we've always seen. So there's a feeling of just absolute kind of weird security here in the Capitol. On the other hand, there's also tremendous excitement at the inauguration of a new president, the way we always feel. So it's a very odd day here.
Yes, and my sense would have been that all of this security, seeing these armed policemen and officials, in uniform all over the city, would kind of mar the celebration and bring about a little bit of a depressing atmosphere. Is that really happening, or are people just excited at the fact that Biden and Harris will soon take charge?
I think people we know this was going to happen. After the January 6th riots at the Capitol, we knew that this was necessary. And remember, the city in the whole world has been prepared by COVID to do things a little bit differently this year. So I think everyone knew, even before January 6th, even before those riots at the Capitol, that this was going to be a strange inauguration. But I think now people are just accepted as it is. Nobody likes the security. Nobody likes the idea that we have to be worried about our fellow Americans attacking the inaugural ceremony, but I think we understand it, we accept it, and I think most people are just kind of looking forward to it. They're excited about what's happening.
Well, let me also bring in our other panelists, and I'm going to start off with Mr. Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti. Mr. Chakravarti, not only the whole election season, the elections, the counting, the entire controversy that unfolded. But it's been an extremely interesting and unprecedented January for United States, from violence on the Capitol Hill to an impeachment process that we've seen, to now inauguration. Americans seem to have, packed it all up together in 1 month. Your view on what we've seen?
Yes, indeed, it's been an eventful month for the Americans, and but on the security side, I think it was to be expected that there would be more than the normal security, apart from COVID and the fact that on the 6th January incident. So I'm not surprised that there is additional security. I mean, imagine that the people on the 6th of January, they could just walk into the Capitol Hill and smash things up, etc. So with that background, I think I'm not surprised that there is additional security, and it should be there. I think because of the current mood, the divisive mood in the country. I mean, with people clearly polarized and divided, and taking into account the fact that that President Trump, in his farewell address at the St. Andrews Air Base, said that he'll be back. I mean, I don't know what he meant, but that he did say that he'll be back.
Yes.
So I don't know, shall we see a repeat of what has happened? Or, but I don't know. Of course, the Senate has to vote for the impeachment proceedings. I really don't know what's going to happen. But, I mean, after all, given his support base, don't forget he got more than the popular votes that he got last time. And if that is his support base, then I will not write him off immediately. And I think I would be very, very careful in assessing what's going to happen in the future. And given the slew of sort of foreign policy kind of decisions that the outgoing Trump administration has taken, basically he's sort of overloaded the menu for Joe Biden to, I think, to navigate all those issues.
Yes.
And it's going to be a difficult time for Joe Biden. I mean, first of all, to reverse some of the decisions that the Trump administration took, but also to navigate some of the very delicate kind of decisions that President Trump has taken, in the last few days. So, well, as they say, it'll be interesting times ahead.
Oh yes, absolutely. In fact, before I go on with the part about the Biden presidency and what can be expected and what his first few set of challenges will be, a quick question again to Kevin on what the experts say happens now to the impeachment process and the Senate trial. Kevin, help us understand, now that Donald Trump is out of the White House, what happens to that?
Well, as you know, the House has impeached him, which essentially is an indictment. It just means that we believe that there's enough evidence against him to bring these charges. And now the Senate is required to hold a trial. And that can still happen after President Trump leaves office. And that's what is going to happen here. The Senate will hold a trial. They haven't set the rules for it yet. And interesting, the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution calls for impeachment. It sets out impeachment as a mechanism, but it gives very, very little guidance about what the rules should be. So the Senate leaders have to create their own rules each time they do this. Now, in the first Trump impeachment, it took about 2 weeks in the Senate, and they had very strict guidelines about who they were going to allow to speak. They didn't allow many witnesses, if any witnesses at all. This time, they haven't said yet what the rules will be. So I think we can probably expect this not to drag out for a very long time. I don't think it'll go much longer than the first one did. But it's, also for Trump to be convicted, 67 senators have to vote. That's 2/3 of the 100 senators. And 50 of them are Democrats. Mitch McConnell, who's the Republican leader, has suggested that he has an open mind about this. And if he votes to convict Donald Trump, then they could conceivably find 16 more Republicans, but it's very unlikely. The Republicans, despite their disgust with what's happened recently and despite the declining popularity, it would be very difficult for them, I think, to convict one of their own.
Interesting. Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, what's your own sense? Will we look at the Senate and the new administration figuring out, ways in terms of going after Donald Trump, or is that going to be, a history chapter now?
I think the shadow of Mr. Donald Trump will continue to loom large for the initial days at least, and Mr. Joe Biden will have to work hard to undo much of the abnormality that he has brought into the way the U.S. government has conducted itself, and the way he has gone about conducting his foreign policy, and many of the decisions that he has taken. So we might see maybe by the 1st of February some 8 or 9 executive decisions which will be taken to undo much of Mr. Donald Trump's policy decisions that he has taken. So it is something that will compel Mr. Joe Biden to look rather inwards rather than look out at the moment, because if you see the presence of the 20,000 National Guards who are there, which make it amply clear that this is a country which is at war with itself. It's a deeply divided polity. And a lot of, rumors are going around about retaliation which will come from the supporters of Mr. Donald Trump. And if you go by the polls that have been conducted, a majority of the Republican voters still feel that the election was stolen from Mr. Donald Trump and Joe Biden wasn't the winner. So it becomes very difficult for a divided nation to recover from, a mindset like this. So I think what the Biden administration would have to do is to prove time and again in different ways through evidence to those very skeptical Republican voters and supporters that look here, they've won it nice and clean. So it's a tough order for for Biden and his administration. It's a very diverse kind of team that he's putting it together. People of experience, they know how to run government, but it's a different U.S. compared to how it was in 2016.
In fact, if I can just play out an excerpt of the comment from the outgoing President Donald Trump's short speech that he made after he left the White House, the speech that he gave. And this is the interesting part. I'll ask experts their views on it, but let's just play out that bite of President Donald Trump.
I just want to say you are amazing people. This is a great, great country. It is my greatest honor and privilege to have been your president. I will always fight for you. I will be watching, I will be listening, and I will tell you that the future of this country has never been better. I wish the new administration great luck and great success. So just a goodbye. We love you. We will be back in some form.
We will be back in some form. That's the comment I think that everybody got really interested in. What are the possibilities, Kevin Sullivan? Would the Republicans ever want to bring him back and endorse him? Is it possible to split the party and Donald Trump setting up his own kind?
Listen, Donald Trump was divisive right to the very last minute there. I mean, that speech, the bit that you played, he said he wished the administration luck. That's about as bland and generic a statement as you can possibly make. He couldn't bring himself to say Joe Biden's name. So I think that the Republican Party going forward, I think there may be an element of fear. As you noted, 74 or 5 million people in this country voted for Donald Trump. And Republicans are, if you're a Republican politician, you have one eye on that huge bit of support that Donald Trump has. I'm sure that's weakened recently, but it's still tens of millions of people who believe that Donald Trump isn't just a good politician, but is some sort of messiah. The following that he has is incredibly fervent, and the Republican Party is aware of that. They're very careful about it. Trump could legally run again for the presidency in 2024. There's nothing preventing him from doing that. But, he'll be quite old at that point. And he also is the most divisive leader we've had in this country maybe ever. And it just is really an open question about whether the Republicans could embrace him or whether they'd want to choose a leader from the next generation, like someone like a Nikki Haley or someone like that. I mean, it's a really open question.
But is there a serious chance or a possibility within your current structure to see the Republican Party split and Trump set up maybe his own party? Patriot Party?
I don't think so. I mean, people talk about that. You hear people talk about maybe what we need is a grand centrist party with centrists from the Democratic Party and centrists from the Republican Party coming together to form a third party, leaving the far left by itself and the far right by itself. But this is all sort of classroom chalkboard stuff. I don't think anybody actually thinks that that's a serious possibility.
Okay. Aarti Tikku, what's your own sense? Is Donald Trump done with politics, or is he going to find ways of keeping it interesting for us?
Well, Tanvi, I have to say that though Donald Trump is out of the office and it's Joe Biden's administration now in the Capitol Hill, but Trumpism and the overall Trump vision and Trump philosophy of America is going to stay. And though, several experts on the panel today think that with now that Trump is gone, everything that the divisive politics that he brought in and the kind of rhetoric he played through his presidency is gone. But I don't think that is gone. In fact, he has left a lasting imprint on not just the domestic politics of America, which today is facing a rupture, a kind of a rupture in society. There is a breakdown of social cohesion in America. Your 75 million voters who voted for Trump do believe today that the election was not fair, that there was some kind of fraud and there was some kind of rigging. But at the same time, Trump's foreign policy has left an imprint even on the Joe Biden's overall outlook and overall agenda that he is going to take up in the next few months. For example, I'll mention a couple of points. Despite the fact that, Democrats and Republicans don't see eye to eye on many issues, but at the end of the day, even Biden today is being forced to say that China is not a friend of the US. Even he is being forced to take a very different stand on China that Democrats had a few years ago. So that's one. The other thing, of course, is the fact that Trump was able to effect peace in Middle East. That is going to have enormous impact on even Joe Biden's presidency. So if you think that former President Trump is gone and there is no other chance, or his politics, so-called divisive politics, is over, I think so. He will be, when he said that he will be back in some form, I think what he really implied was that either he or somebody else with the same vision and same philosophy and same outlook on American politics and American foreign policy will come back and contest the next election.
Okay, perhaps that's what he meant. I think everybody's gotten so used to taking Donald Trump literally in what he usually says, that maybe that's how people saw it, and as an indication that he intends to come back in one way or the other. But let me just also tell our viewers, it's 9:20 here in our country right now, 9:18 p.m. At about 10 p.m. our time is when the inauguration ceremony will actually begin. Then Joe Biden will deliver the inaugural address after being sworn in. But Biden and Harris will attend the pass-in review with the military at the Capitol. Biden and Harris will then proceed to Arlington National Cemetery, where they will lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And Joe Biden will then receive the presidential escort to the White House. So that's the plan. You can see the dignitaries, the biggest of the names, former President Bill Clinton, they're also arriving. So all of your former US presidents over there are expected to be in attendance, and one by one they are arriving, except President Donald Trump. He will not be there. Let me also go across to Leela Punappa. Thank you for patiently waiting by. Okay, I'm just going to go to her in just a bit. We're going to have her in just a bit. But let me pick up the point that Aarti made and ask Mr. Chakravarti this question. Mr. Chakravarti, is healing America going to be Joe Biden's first big challenge? There is no debate that the nation is extremely polarized and divided today for whatever be the paths to it. But will that be the first challenge?
No, I don't think so. I think the first challenge will be COVID and how to deal with it, because the USA, despite President Trump's sort of assertions, has failed to deal with COVID because of certain factors that permeates its society, that I don't want to wear a mask, it's my freedom, etc. And that is why the US is topping the list of countries around the world with the highest number of COVID infections and deaths. I mean, this was unexpected of a country like the USA with this vast sort of technological prowess and the facilities and the infrastructure it has. So I think, in fact, my view is that it is COVID which actually defeated President Trump. I think the common people must have put a lot of concern about the way he handled COVID, and it may have swayed a lot of votes against him to that of Biden. And I think President Biden knows that fully well, and he will be tackling certain issues immediately. And I think COVID is, you can see some executive directives coming out very soon, maybe by tonight or when he takes off, after he's taken office, about how to deal with COVID and things on masks, etc. So I believe that COVID will be his first priority. Everything else comes after that. I think economy, foreign policy, etc. Let me say that that countries have a certain continuity in foreign policy. As a diplomat, I can say that about my own country. And there will be tweakings, there will be nuances. But major departures from foreign policy which Trump made, some of it will be reversed. I know climate change, for example, will be reversed. But let's take West Asia, where Trump has succeeded in getting UAE and Bahrain and Oman and various other countries, Morocco, to sign agreements and diplomatic relations with Israel. I don't think that's going to go down, that's going to be repudiated by the Biden administration. I mean, those are welcome things, and I think it's a feather in Trump's cap that he's managed to do it, would whatever be the reason and how he has done it. So I think foreign policy, in the foreign policy domain, you don't see too many sort of knee-jerk changes. I think you will probably see much continuity with certain nuancing towards on various issues that everybody is talking about. But let's wait and see. But I think COVID, again, I would say, reiterate, will be his first priority, and the economy. And the next would be the economy, how to revive the economy. I mean, unemployment and all these things must be deeply worrying for any American president.
That's an interesting point that you make. Let me also bring in Sanjay Kapoor. Sanjay Kapoor, do you believe that there will be some U-turn, some changing of decisions that were taken by Donald Trump under the new administration now?
I think what Ambassador Pinak Chakravarti said, by and large, will be the agenda for Mr. Joe Biden. He has to fight the COVID at the earliest, because I agree with him that if there was no COVID, Mr. Donald Trump would have won the election. It would not have gone this way, and with the close margin that we see how Mr. Biden won, and under great controversy. So it would have been easy for Mr. Trump to win. But having said that, with Mr. Joe Biden in power, you could have the Iran deal back, the nuclear deal back in place. You could have the climate, there will be 8 or 10 similar decisions that will be taken, the ban that has been imposed on Muslims, and many such things that have actually divided this country. Because what Mr. Trump did was to give an impression that, he was fulfilling the agenda of the white supremacists. So there was a great amount of excitement in that lot who did not get used to the idea of U.S., like having a rainbow society where everybody had a say. And especially after President Obama, who was a colored president, they thought that they needed to get back the control, the primacy that the whites enjoyed. So Mr. Biden, with a kind of team that he's bringing in, there are about 20 Indian Americans who are there. There are many other, you can say, ethnicities which are also there. So, in a certain way, it will be a different administration, and surely it will reflect the decisions that are taken in the coming days. And I said, more importantly, despite whatever Mr. Trump may have done in trying to put together an Arab coalition against Iran, Mr. Biden might actually revive the Iran deal once again. And if you heard what Qatar was saying, the Qatar government has said that the Arab world should start looking at how to deal with Iran, and that is something that will really start showing up very soon.
Okay, in fact, before I let Kevin Sullivan go, let me quickly ask him this as well. The view within Washington on how the foreign policy may or may not change under the new administration. Kevin?
Well, I think, a lot of the people he's put in positions of power to overseeing our foreign policy are people who've been there before. Secretary of State Tony Blinken is one of our most seasoned diplomats. He's been there for a long, long time. A lot of people like that, but this is not going to be the Democratic Party of 2014 conducting foreign policy. I think they learned a lot. I think they learned a lot from Obama, and I think they learned a lot from Trump. I think you're going to see, our foreign policy with a much stronger element of how does this affect the American economy? How does this affect life in the United States? We will rejoin the Paris Accord, of course, but I think that you're going to hear from Biden much more about how this is going to create jobs for Americans. This is going to help create more environmentally friendly green jobs. It isn't simply going to be, we're doing this because it's the right thing to do. There is going to be a recognition that Donald Trump rode this crest of people who were really felt left out by American foreign policy, particularly. They saw jobs going overseas. They saw debates about carbon trading, a long way from home, and they didn't even know what that meant. I think for a lot of people, it just meant this isn't affecting my daily life. This isn't helping me feed my family. This isn't helping me get health care. This isn't helping me get a job. So I think you're going to see a little bit maybe more pragmatic foreign policy from the Democrats. It's not simply going to be a return to what we were doing 6 years ago. It's going to be something a little different.
Interesting. Kevin Sullivan, thank you so much for joining us today and really bringing us what the view is there in Washington. I really appreciate you joining us. We take the conversation forward, and as I do that, let me also tell our viewers that one interesting fact that has emerged, and because Kevin was referring to the kind of administration team that has been formed for Biden and Harris, let me talk a little bit more about that and the fact that there is a significant number of Indian Americans, 20 Indian Americans, which is the first time actually in U.S. history that so many of them have either been appointed or nominated to be part of the U.S. government, 17 of them in key positions. So, a lot of their, from being press secretary to being senior officials in the White House, a lot of this is key positions that have been given. That doesn't mean that is going to be specifically any big news or great news for India. They're obviously going to be looking at what the policy should be for America and how it will be the most beneficial for them. But let's talk about the other question that I asked earlier. And I want to actually bring in Mr. Sanjay Kapoor on this as well. Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, we often say that America is very divided and polarized right now, and the elections itself probably just added to it in a huge way. Will that heal itself? Like Aarti says, perhaps a lot of this, do you see it continuing for a while?
I don't think it's going to heal itself. As I said earlier, I think the Biden administration would have to work very hard to win the trust of those people who do not agree with the outcome of the elections. As I said, most of the Republican voters, majority of them still think that the election was stolen from Donald Trump. They take him as some kind of messiah. They think that he was the one who would change America forever. There is a certain kind of dominating feeling in them that, he's a bring primacy to the white people, which is a country that they think it really deserved, rather than giving space to people of color. So many of the actions that Mr. Trump took in the last 4 years was supposed to, in a certain way, help out that kind of feeling. So I don't think it will happen any time on its own, and there might be reaction, there may be violent reaction, because if you recall, we used to see a lot of reporting coming in from southern part of the U.S. where you would have many white supremacist organizations training to for some D-Day when they need to pick up arms and fight against somebody. So surely the 20,000 National Guards who are there are the ones who are protecting the swearing in from exactly those people who were training all this while. So it's going to be a hard, difficult climb. I think there will be COVID to deal with, and then the economy, as Mr. Chakrabarti said, would be another area where they will look into. There is a new Green Deal that is being worked out. But I can also tell you that this administration is far more ideological than the ones that we have seen in the past. There was the Green Movement, the Sunrise Movement, which is headed by an Indian. Then you also have the Democrats, the Justice Democrats, who are led by Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and supporters of Bernie Sanders, who've been kept out, but they continue to weigh very heavily on Mr. Biden and other people. So surely they may not have got space in the cabinet, but their presence in the Congress will certainly influence how a lot of policy making. So let's see how it plays out. It's not going to be easy, as your panelist, I don't know whether he's still around, said that it's not the days of 2014. It's going to be a different U.S. that Biden will be dealing with. He's a 78-year-old man called Sleepy Joe because of how he went about it, but it would require far better reflexes than it's been at display at the moment. I mean, it will require more youthful reaction than what an old man of 78 will bring in.
And what role, Aarti Tikku, do you see Kamala Harris now play? Of course, it is considered to be quite important to have a very strong running mate during elections, and that extra boost that Joe Biden obviously got because of Kamala Harris being by his side. But as far as now the presidency is concerned, how do you see that panning out for her?
Tanvi, before I answer your question, I want to make a couple of points. Some of the panelists, although I by and large agree with Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, he made very relevant and valid points. But on one particular issue, I think I have a disagreement. I think America, by and large, is a very tolerant, pluralistic, diverse country. And I do not see the whole idea and the narrative and the rhetoric around white supremacy as real as it is being projected. I think it is real to a certain extent. There are fringe elements within the white Christian community in the US who consider themselves as supreme. But at the same time, I would say that America has rejected racism. It rejected racism when they elected Barack Obama. It rejected racism when they elected different, people of different color, different race, different gender, and that is the democracy, that is the openness and freeness of the America that everybody celebrates in the world. So I think this whole bogey of white supremacy, white supremacism is hugely exaggerated, and it's a narrative that is being peddled by the old establishment in the US and by also the left in the US. I don't think it is as big a danger as it is being projected. In fact, it's a very somber moment today. The oldest democracy in the world is holding its presidential oath ceremony under intense, security. It does not exude the feeling of freedom. It does not exude the feeling of democracy. In fact, it feels as if America is far more threatened than it was, say, after 9/11. So apart from that point about Kamala Harris, well, I have to say that, Kamala Harris is going to largely focus on soft issues rather than hard issues. She is definitely going to rake up human rights across the world. I think that is her domain area as it is, given her entire political rhetoric and campaign that she ran during the elections. Like, I would say that she is going to rake up the issue of human rights violations committed by other democracies and by other nations, while as Joe Biden and people surrounding him, the Secretary of State, the Defense Secretary, and everybody else, they will be looking at the hard questions that America is facing as of today, its relationship with China and its relationship with Russia. In fact, you can already see that there is an entire narrative coming out from the leftist establishment today in America, and it is focused on the lack of democracy in Russia. And I think this is where Kamala Harris is going to be talking endlessly about human rights violations and the lack of democracy in the rest of the world.
Okay, let me also say good evening to Leela Ponappa joining us right now. Thank you so much, Leela Ponappa, former diplomat and Deputy National Security Advisor. Just to continue this conversation, and after this I will go back to the earlier point that Aarti was making, but your view on what Kamala Harris can now bring to the table. She's done a job of being a great running mate, held Biden, reached the White House, but what can we expect from her now?
I think she is going to focus on legislative and on the legislative effect of, let us say, her former record as a respected public prosecutor. And it is somewhat ironical that one of her first tasks will really be to preside over the Senate trial of former President Trump. I don't think we should categorize her in terms of dealing with X or Y issues. Very clearly, she is a fully on board running mate of Joe Biden. And obviously, the agenda will have to be worked out as this administration settles in. She has range in terms not just of her origins, but really of her work experience and so on. So I expect great things of her as an American. I don't think we should make the mistake of thinking that because of her origins, either on her father's or her mother's side, that there will be preferences. Perhaps there will be an understanding, but she will work for America's interests and within the scope of what the Biden administration intends to do. At the same time, I think given familial connections and so on, the ground is well set for developing understanding, and the challenge will really be for India to exert its diplomatic skills in terms of engaging America under this new administration.
In fact, this is the visuals that are coming are on the left of our screens are actually visuals from India, and these are the visuals from Kamala Harris's ancestral village, the village from where her mother actually comes from. And of course, through the day, that village has also gotten quite a bit of attention purely for the direct connection with Kamala Harris. And this is what they've done now. With diyas, they've lit up her name as she becomes the next Vice President of United States of America. Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, would you like to add into this the role that you see Kamala Harris play in this administration?
I agree, as I always do, with Ambassador Ponappa. She has, she may be of her origin, may be Indian, or for that matter, had a Jamaican father, but she would be entirely driven by U.S. national interest. So it is good to know that there is a brown person sitting there in the as a vice president's job, but that is as far as we go. I don't think we can take advantage, or we should think of taking advantage of thinking that there is somebody from Indian origin. Similarly, the 20 odd Indian Americans who are there, they will be doing their job. Many of them are ideologically aligned with the values which oppose Donald Trump and his policies. And if he thought that it would work with Donald Trump, if he extends support, if you remember the Prime Minister Modi in 2019, saying that Ab ki baar Modi Sarkar, thinking that the government, the support that the Indians are going to provide will bring back Mr. Trump to power. Things don't happen like that. I mean, they stay in that country, they recognize what is, which side the bread is buttered, what is their interest, and they work accordingly, or they know the party that they need to support. And surely Kamala Harris would be sitting in Washington and looking at the world from that prism. And India is just one of the countries. And
I absolutely agree with you. In fact, I think more and more now people have begun to understand that with administrations coming and going, it doesn't make a significant difference, too much of a difference right away to us. Now, how we nurture and develop those partnerships with the new administration is completely different. But what I was trying to actually understand is between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the fact that many do say that he's been around for so long, but he's now relatively older. She's the more vibrant, the one that people connect to more. Will that actually translate into anything policy-wise now, or is that part over with the elections?
I think it all depends upon how much space Mr. Joe Biden decides to give Kamala Harris. If you remember, when Mr. Biden was the vice president, he was used diplomatically quite a bit by President Obama. He would go on certain missions. He would be given certain responsibilities. But I don't know. I mean, it all boils down to what kind of arrangement the two of them strike. Definitely, she has quicker feet. She moves faster than Mr. Biden. He's getting old. He's about 78 years of age. And Kamala Harris, I think, is seen to be more an establishment woman. She's more middle of the road, was even perceived to be closer to the Republican agenda by some people. So it is possible that when it comes to reaching out to the more conservative section, it may be Kamala Harris who could be the one fielded on certain issues. But that is a choice that Mr. Biden will have to make.
Okay, then we wait and watch what happens and how it proceeds from here on. Let's get the attention back of our viewers also to the visuals that are playing, where just a short while ago, Kamala Harris arrived there with her husband. This is the welcome that she is getting from the dignitaries who've arrived there already. Kamala Harris will shortly be taking oath as the Vice President of the United States. Joe Biden will then be sworn in as the 46th U.S. President at this location at the Capitol building. Now remember, we're looking at a very unprecedented kind of a setup. This has never happened before. There are actually no crowds. Otherwise, you see thousands and thousands of people who actually gather for this big day, the inauguration day as it is known as in United States. But that's not happened today. In fact, pretty much the entire city is in a state of a kind of a shutdown or a lockdown. So, mostly it's the men in uniform who are out there, extremely tight security because of the violence that unfolded at the Capitol Hill itself when Trump supporters who were there as part of the rally while proceedings were going on inside, decided to storm in the Capitol Hill, and that led to quite a bit of violence. Unprecedented scenes that actually emerged from United States that day. In the light of that, there is strict security now. And of course, because of COVID, you also don't have large gatherings, you don't have people. So dual challenges, security and COVID, leading to this kind of a setting. This will in fact be the first time since 1869 that the departing US president, the outgoing US president, has refused to attend a successor ceremony. So Donald Trump has left the White House. He's not going to be seen there. All the other former US presidents are actually there with their families already present, but Donald Trump will not be present there. 200,000 flags have been placed to represent the missing crowd. That's the, that's what they have decided to do. Unprecedented, really, Leela Ponnappa, the kind of setup we are looking at. What message does the world get when the oldest democracy ushers in a new era of governance under such tight security?
The oldest democracy, Tanvi, actually is not America, it is Iceland. I think we need to recognize
that.
Corrected,
yes.
Having said that, I think as a major constitutional democracy, which has sustained and built its institutions over 200 plus years, I think there are many signals that today, and the developments that have led up today, are there not just for America, but for the whole world. One is that while democracy is certainly a preferred choice of government for many of us, it cannot be taken for granted. It cannot be assumed that a complacent population will allow the kind of atmosphere that got created through the very powerful use of social media, of falsities, of really challenging what was considered a very stable country based on constitutional law, equality, and democracy. So it cannot be taken for granted. Two, that there are threats both within and without. The lessons of January 6th were not just for America, but I think they were for any country that valued democracy. Third, that America has the resilience and the capacity to take back what was sought to be overthrown. It was very clearly a coup attempt, an attempt to dislodge, to disrupt a constitutional process, and that the country's institutions, the other institutions, the courts, the Congress, were able to really bring the situation back on course. And with the departure of Donald Trump a short while ago, and now the upcoming inauguration of Joe Biden, this is something that, again, the world can see that it requires everyone to participate, to come together, to put politics aside. If we are talking about the country and the society, here is an example of a country that had seen a problem and has then come back to stability. Joe Biden has his work cut out for him, but I think today marks really a kind of restoration and a re-recognition of the importance of sustaining the institutions of democracy. Everything is not going to change, as I said. There are many things that Joe Biden will need to continue with in terms of perhaps foreign policy, certain aspects of domestic policy as well. But there is clearly an agenda to put aside social divisiveness, to try to bring in cohesion, to recognize the strength of immigration. The United States is a country of immigrants, including a lot of the people that you see on the screen. It's not just Kamala Harris or the Indians in Biden's administration, but really the entire white population. They're all immigrants. And this has been the strength of this country. So they will need to try to see how to balance it, to restore their economic strength. I think these are the takeaways of the events of today. It's not just an inauguration.
Yes.
The fact that you see a country that normally celebrates its national festivals, 4th of July, the inauguration of a president, having to face the kind of lockdown that we have unfortunately seen both in India and in other countries, is in itself a warning signal that there is no room for complacency in sustaining the democratic values that we cherish.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think that's a lesson for the world over, for all of us sitting miles away as well, to take these lessons and ensure that, you know, in no other part of the country we witness what we witnessed in United States on 6th of January. I'm going to request our panelists to stay on with us. We're going to take a very short break and we'll come back with lots more. Joe Biden has arrived. Everybody is now ready and seated. So shortly the ceremony will begin. Stay with us.
Vice President Pence, Mr. President-elect, Madam Vice President-elect, members of Congress and the judicial branch, former presidents and first ladies, vice presidents, leaders from abroad, and a whole bunch of Bidens. America, welcome to the 59th presidential inauguration, where in just a few moments, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will take their solemn oaths. This ceremony is the culmination of 244 years of a democracy. It is the moment when leaders brought to this stage by the will of the people promised to be faithful to our Constitution, to cherish it and defend it. It is the moment when they become, as we all should be, guardians of our country. Have we become too jaded, too accustomed to the ritual of the passing of the torch of democracy to truly appreciate what a blessing and a privilege it is to witness this moment? I think not. 2 weeks ago, when an angry, violent mob staged an insurrection and desecrated this temple of our democracy, it awakened us to our responsibilities as Americans. This is the day when our democracy picks itself up, brushes off the dust, and does what America always does, goes of Americans gave their lives to preserve our republic in this place. Great legislation to protect civil rights and economic security and lead the world was debated and crafted under this dome. Now it falls on all of us, not just the two leaders we are inaugurating today, to take up the torch of our democracy, not as a weapon of political arson, but as an instrument for good. We pledge today never to take our democracy for granted as we celebrate its remarkable strength. We celebrate its resilience, its grit. We celebrate the ordinary people doing extraordinary things for our nation, the doctors and nurses on the front line of this pandemic, the officers in the Capitol, a new generation never giving up hope for justice.